Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to deebeecon 2025. A very special guest, somebody that's well known in the gaming journalism world. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show Gene Park.
Mr. DB Geek, it's a true honor to be here at DBCon. I believe it's the third annual, from what
Yeah.
you told me.
Hmm.
But this is a true honor because I've become a huge fan of yours over the past few years.
I
I guess
appreciate
around the
that.
time you started DBCon, but also when you started your Xenoblade Chronicles journey.
Hmm.
And I started to watch your playthroughs, and I was like, this is the perfect playthrough of Xenoblade Chronicles. Like these are the best reactions I've seen. Definitely one of them. Very entertaining stuff, and yeah, and to think that you just finished this whole journey just like a month or two ago.
Yeah,
That's
crazy.
wild. That's wild.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I wouldn't say it was the perfect playthrough, but it was an experience to say the least. Yeah, no,
I think
Xenoblade Chronicles. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. I actually went through my YouTube playlist and I went through the Xenoblade 1 your playlist, and I was like, man, I've watched every single video of
No
this whole playthrough.
way.
Yeah,
That's
it's been a long time since
crazy.
because I used to because I'm a huge fan of content creators and video game creators, and I
Appreciate
think
that. Yeah.
people who know me over the years know that I've grown close to a lot of them, which is amazing to me, because again, I just started as a fan. Again, I'm a fan
Right.
of you, and now we've touched base. So for me, this is exciting. But I used to watch Let's Plays and playthroughs all the time. But
Mm.
in the past few years, I've kind of fallen in love with that and just paid attention to Twitch streams, and you get busier over time. But yeah, watching your playthrough really brought back the old like 2012, 2011 days of just sitting around and just watching another fellow play a video game in a very fun and entertaining way. And one of my favorite games of all time, Xenoblade Chronicles, the whole series. So
Yeah,
yeah, just to see you walk through the whole thing all the way up to Future Redeemed is
I know,
incredible.
man.
You
Absolutely
you got the
insane.
whole narrative in the past few years. What an incredible journey. So
Yeah, it was. Like Xenoblade Chronicles for me was probably one of my most interesting Let's Plays that I'd done because of just how it went for me. Like the first game was such a great experience, and going into the second game as well was just phenomenal too. But then I took a break between Torna and obviously Xenoblade Chronicles 3 just because I feel
mm,
like I wasn't in the right headspace at the time to continue it because it's such
yeah,
a well told story. Xenoblade Chronicles, in my opinion, is one of the best narratives in Nintendo, and I really, really enjoyed the characters and stuff. And I knew I had to be at a certain place to fully appreciate Xenoblade Chronicles 3. So once I knew I was there, it was going to bring out the best playthrough that I can give it. So yes, Xenoblade Chronicles was definitely one heck of a journey.
yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I should introduce myself, but for folks who don't
Sure.
know,
Go for it.
hi
Yeah.
there. My name is Gene Park. I am the video game critic for the Washington Post over here in Washington D.C., the capital of these United States. And I've been working here for actually 10 years now.
Wow.
420 is actually my anniversary at the Washington Post.
No
It
way.
No joke. I actually started on 420 in 2015. So 420 in 2025 would actually be my 10-year anniversary, and we can talk more about
Wow.
my journey through that
Congratulations. Yeah.
later. But yeah.
That's amazing. So let's just get into some questions anyway, Gene. So in terms of your career, what like truly inspired you to pursue a career, we'll say, in gaming journalism, and how did you get your to start at the Washington Post? Most importantly.
Yeah, so I never made it a career goal of mine to be a games journalist ever, ever, ever.
Oh, really? Okay.
I never thought it would ever become part of my career. It wasn't
Mm,
something I aspired to. Video game journalism or video games media, at least, is kind of like my first touch point in media literacy. I'm 43, so I grew up with Nintendo, and I was
mm.
actually part of the Nintendo fan club that put out a little magazine, and that actually eventually morphed into Nintendo Power.
Oh,
And I
yes, I
was like,
remember that.
yeah, I was 6 years old and a subscriber to Nintendo Power. So
Wow.
that got me interested in magazines and media and just news in general, I
Hmm.
guess. But I really just got into journalism. I'm originally from the island of Guam, this small, tiny Pacific island of Guam, U.S. territory. But we had a tiny little newspaper there, and they already had an internship when I was in high school during the 90s.
Right. Yeah.
And I figured I enjoyed writing already at the time. I enjoyed creative writing, writing poetry, writing short
Mm.
stories, and everything like that. So, my mom was like, "Well, you like writing, so why don't you give this a shot?" Um, and so I tried it. I covered local news, teen news, as a high school teen. And after a year, I was like, I really enjoy this. So I went to college with a major, with a focus on journalism set in mind. I went to school in California. This is my school right here, Cal State Fullerton, Orange
Oh,
County,
amazing.
California.
Yeah.
And then I couldn't find work because media is sinking and was already sinking in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
So I went back to Guam. Ended up working back at the paper that I started interning in. So I covered crime and military stuff. And after about 3 years, I had a horrible time back home.
Right. Okay.
That's a whole backstory of drug abuse and violence that I just wanted to get out of. So
Wow.
I
Yeah.
ended up falling in love with somebody who lived in Hawaii, and I moved to Hawaii in 2006. And from 2006 to 2015, I lived there, and I continued my journey as a crime reporter. I
Right.
was
Okay.
the cops reporter. Every time there was a murder or drug bust or anything like that, I'll be there. They used to call
Wow.
me the angel. They used to call me the angel of death because if I'm there, it means that someone died. So,
Oh
so-
shit.
so- someone got murdered. So that's been my trade, covering like all kinds of different stories and all kinds of different beats. I've covered education, schools. I've covered business. I've covered military movements.
Yeah.
I've covered politics, of course. But then also during the 90s when I was on Guam, I was, this was at the advent of the internet, right? And
Right. Yeah.
I was online pretty much immediately. And Guam, again, is a tiny little island of only 130,000, 150,000 people. So we
Right.
had one chat room in the 1990s. Um, so a single chat room where everybody on Guam would go on and chat, and I was the moderator.
No
Uh,
way.
I was the mod of the whole island. So
Wow.
everybody knew who I was, even as a teen. Terrible time to be on the internet as a teen during the 90s.
I could
I'll tell you that.
imagine. I could
Yeah,
imagine.
you can't even imagine. Like it's the Wild West right there. There are no rules of etiquette, or nobody knows what to do or anything like that. But it was that experience that really got me interested in social media and engagement and interaction online. So when I was in Hawaii, I was like really the first person in Hawaii the first reporter in Hawaii to use social media in a way that was a reporting tool. You know,
Yeah.
so it'd be like, oh yeah, oh go follow Gene on Twitter. He's at this murder site right now, and he'll tell you what's going on. Or oh, go follow Gene right now. He's telling you why the freeway is all backed up.
Okay. So yeah, yeah.
There's an accident there, and he's right there on the freeway, and he's taking pictures with his little BlackBerry. You know. So I was really the first guy to start doing that, and I really, the media business was starting to tank, and I was like, I can't get by and have my own skill as reporting and writing. I
Mm.
need to understand social media better. I need to really engage with this medium better. So
Mm.
I really kind of started to shift my focus away from just regular reporting and right into social media management.
Right.
Running brand accounts and audience development and stuff like this. Stuff that
Yeah.
you as a creator think about all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Nonstop. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I still remember your first Xenoblade Chronicles videos, where a PlayStation guy plays Xenoblade Chronicles for the first
Yep.
time because you were thinking about your audience. You were thinking about
Exactly.
that drew me in. I was like, oh, a
Hmm.
PlayStation guy, he doesn't even know anything about Xenoblade. I can't wait to see this.
Yeah.
But you were already
Exactly.
mindful of that kind of stuff. You were already
Hmm.
mindful of trying to reach a new audience and stuff like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
But that's stuff that you as a creator has, and you have to understand innately that the media business and the newspaper business does not understand.
Yeah.
They've always been spoiled, and they always think that oh, we have a built-in audience. We're the news. Of course, people are gonna come check us out,
Yeah.
which hasn't been the case at all. But I knew that that was a problem very early on, so I tried to help out my newspaper in Hawaii. Didn't really quite work out, and I actually gave up doing media business for about a year. So I actually had a stint
Right.
in public relations for a little bit.
Okay.
That kind of developed my more promotional activities, and again, this ability to market product and market stuff.
Yeah.
And then a small investigative news startup in Hawaii still, started by the founder of eBay, Pierre Midyar.
Right.
Uh, the,
Okay.
he's a billionaire that lives in Hawaii, and he started a
Whoa.
small investigative startup, and they really needed help with their social media presence and their online presence. And they hit me up, and they were like, "Hey, Gene, we heard you're the best, and we could really use the help." So I was like, I guess I'll go back to media. I'll give this one more shot,
Right.
and maybe I couldn't really do what I wanted to do at the newspaper because they were so traditional and so set in their ways.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where today that old newspaper, the Honolulu Star Advertiser, doesn't even have an office anymore. That's where they're at as a company. The whole office
Wow.
is gone. My
It's
office,
just
my
wow.
my desk is gone. My old mailbox is gone.
No
There's just
way.
a single room left that just deals with HR. So that paper is basically all but gone. So I went with this small startup that's doing pretty well at this point, but they really need help with social media. So I helped them out for about a year and a half. I was their quote unquote community manager. So I started
Okay.
doing stuff like deebeecon. Like I started creating like live events. I started creating like live stream events
Right.
to really kind of reach out to the community and again, think more like a creator.
Mm.
Think about ways to engage with the audience a little bit. I
Yeah.
increased the traffic of that website by 524%.
Wha-
So
It
it
worked.
was it worked. Everything I did worked. All my social
Damn.
media management, managing the Facebook page, managing the Twitter, tweaking like the back end of the website and all that stuff. So I thought like, okay, well, this place is small, but they're giving me the opportunity to flex my skills, and I'm hoping that that skill set could be and the results that I'm bringing could impress someone bigger. It was
Right.
really my intention to somehow work at a bigger news organization. I
I
wanted to
see.
leave the
Yeah.
islands.
Yeah. That's fair.
I was I felt like a big fish in a small pond, and I was
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I knew that I'm destined for more than this. I
Hmm.
never thought it'd be the Washington Post, which is the third or the second, third. So I'd say third biggest newspaper at this point. It was the
Yeah.
second back then.
It's insane. Yeah.
Um, I really wanted to work at the LA Times, which is really struggling right now. But I really wanted to go back to California and work in
Mm.
LA. But I overshot. I ended up. There was a social media job at the Washington Post that
Mm.
I saw, and I was like, why not? Why don't I go for it? So I applied. Actually, got rejected.
Oh
And
wait,
then,
did you?
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then there was a second post that came up a couple of months later, and I was like, all right, well, I'll try again.
Hmm.
And they gave me a listen this time. And
Nice.
I did interviews. It was a 3-month process, and I had to do 15 separate interviews. Actually, 17 total.
Oh,
So
15.
yeah, 17 total in the whole process. But in 2 days,
Jeez.
I had to talk to 15 different people for the job. So the hiring process for the
Damn.
Washington Post is extremely rigorous, and I
Yeah,
had
I
to
can
write like a whole
imagine.
essay about stuff like that. About like my strategies and everything. And I got hired. So I got hired as a social media strategy guy for the Washington Post.
Wow, fair
So
play.
so I was running like the brand accounts for the Washington Post. Like I
Yeah,
was running Twitter. I was part of the team that was running the Twitter. I started the Reddit account on the Washington Post. I inspired the TikTok account that's doing very well there. And I
nice,
did that for about all the way from 2015 to 2019, about 4 years.
nice.
I even covered the presidential election back in 2016,
Oh,
where there was
really? Okay.
Hillary Clinton versus Donald Trump.
Yeah, yeah, I
That was
remember.
that was a time. So I've done a lot at the Washington Post. I've helped out with investigations. I was the lead social media guy for the opinion section. So I work with a lot of our columnists.
Right.
So finally, we get into video games. How I got
Yeah,
into video games.
yeah. How did that
Um,
happen?
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
such a journey, man.
How did that? None of that involve video games at all. Throughout the whole
At
time,
all.
throughout the whole time I'm gaming, but I was never like I don't buy consoles at launch. I don't buy games at launch. I was a
Mm,
regular ass gamer. I would buy a game, if I thought it sounded interesting, and we can talk more about my gaming habits throughout the years.
Absolutely,
But
yes.
yeah, the Washington Post began to kind of start to think about covering video games. Our former the number two editor is a sports editor,
Mm,
and he felt like one of his deepest regrets was that he missed the whole MMA boat, or he dismissed mixed martial arts as like a fad, right?
right. Okay.
And wrestling as a fad. So when he realized that he was wrong about things, he started noticing that a lot of billionaire investors in DC started throwing money into esports teams, right?
Okay.
The guy who owns the big arena here, he's also a co-founder of AOL, but
Right.
he started really throwing lots of money into esports teams. So he was like, okay, well, maybe I'm missing out on esports. So there was a whole committee to kind of, study up on whether the Washington Post should cover esports.
Right.
And they were like, well, Gene, you play video games, so why don't you come on and advise on this team? And then my advice was we should not cover esports. Uh,
Yeah.
because esports is kind of a bubble, as we all know right now.
Yeah.
A lot of esports media outlets have closed down, and part of
Mm,
that is because I understood the audience. I understood the esports audience. I understand that what the esports audience wants is they don't need a middleman in the media to do things. These esports teams already have their own media outlets
they do, yeah.
producing videos, producing documentaries, producing blog posts
Hmm.
already. There's
Yeah.
already that direct relationship with the customer
Yeah.
that
There is.
we would just be useless at that point. So I said, why don't we cover video games in
In
general?
general, yes. Now that's
Actually
it.
cover video games, right?
That's the
Like
key.
you should just cover the whole thing because that's the
Yeah.
big thing, right?
Absolutely.
And then they thought about it and they were like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense." And then they were like, "We should hire a reporter." And then the editor, my friend, who's long gone right now, he's actually the top editor at the San Francisco Chronicle right now. I miss him very
Oh,
much, Emilio.
damn.
But he was like,
Nice.
"Well, Gene's right here. We should just hire him." He looked at me. He was like, "What do you think about starting Monday?" I was like, "Sure."
Let's do it.
You
Let's
know,
do it.
I skipped the whole 50 people interview process, and I just switched desk and I just
Nice.
games. And that was a long process too, because like I said, I've been a writer as a news writer for a very long time.
Hmm.
I never really wrote for the Washington Post. So
Right.
before that, I started to write a lot more, lot more pieces, writing opinion pieces, writing
Mm.
some news pieces, writing for the feature section, where I write for now. And I really needed to prove myself as a writer and someone who can be edited. So, and someone who can draw traffic in. And turns out I was able to do that. So that's why they were like, "Oh yeah, I work with Gene. Gene's great. There's
Yeah.
no problem." So that's how I got started. I really started in the games media at the end of 2019. Just right before the start of the pandemic, really. So it's
Wow.
been a little tough for me to kind of like network and meet people.
Yeah.
Especially, and I've talked about this publicly before, so it's fine. But in 2022, I was diagnosed with colon cancer.
Yeah.
So that really kind of set me back in terms of my career and everything like that. But
I
I'm
could
better now.
imagine. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, good.
I'm better now.
Good.
And Xenoblade Chronicles really powered me through that whole thing. Xenoblade
Nice.
Chronicles three dropped actually right around the time I got
Yes, I
diagnosed.
was gonna
So
say around this time. Yeah. Wow.
yep. So that was a
Perfect
really good
timing.
time. Yeah,
Yeah.
perfect timing for the game to drop. And the game is all about moving on
Mhm.
and keeping fighting on. So it was really really inspirational for me. But that's how I started. Back in 2019, we had a whole video game section called Launcher. And then after I got better and I went back to work at the start of 2023, they laid off the whole crew. Everyone was gone, and it's just me now. So,
Wow.
but I'm
What?
still doing it.
Yeah. That's an incredible journey just to see where you started and how it all just eventually transitioned into gaming related stuff. Like that's to listen to all of it is phenomenal. So all I can say is congratulations, and I'm happy for where you are now, and I hope you continue to succeed. I think one of the things that you're very good at now, what I notice is, connecting with the online space in terms of creators like myself and people in the industry. Just seeing your tweets and stuff like that, and people that you interact with, and I think in your line of work, that is probably the perfect kind of people to be associated with, because as you said, there is a lot of similarities in what we have to do on our day-to-day basis in terms of getting traffic and getting
Mhm.
audience's attention and stuff like that. So yeah, it's just fair play, dude. Seriously, fair play. What a journey. What a
Mhm.
journey. So
I'm
I'll
glad
make
that you noticed that because that's something
yeah.
that I really try to push out.
Mm,
I notice not just in the games media space, but even in the media space in general, that there's a
mm,
contentious, uh, like almost jealous, envious relationship with creators in
mm.
the media space. Even last year at the Democratic National Convention, like a lot of medias were complaining about all of these TikTok creators and Twitch creators taking up space at the political convention.
Right.
And it's like that just goes to show that the shifting cultural norms, and rather than yelling about it, why don't we work together? Why don't I
Exactly.
hop on DBCon and talk with,
Exactly.
DB's audience or whatever,
There you
and
go.
everyone here is finding out. Everyone here just heard about my story, and maybe they might be
There you
interested
go.
in that. That's what I've been doing for the past few years too. Just really touching base with creators, and just really showing that I do not have a contentious relationship at all. In fact,
Yeah.
I love creators. I admire so much of what you guys have to do. I think here's the thing. Like, I think the difference between creators and media folks is that creators, you work like your life literally depends on it. You
Yep.
know, this is your whole livelihood. I
Yep.
could just fuck off. I'm fucking off right now, just hanging out with you during work hours, right?
Yeah.
But I have that luxury because I'm employed and I'm salaried. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
you have to think about every day. You have to plan out. You have to plan out DBCon in advance. You have to plan out your schedule. Even planning out Xenoblade Chronicles. You have to think about the
Yep.
right mindset
Yep.
and how you could be as entertaining as possible to your audience.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that those are things that media folks don't think about, and we have the luxury to not think about it. So that's why,
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't get when people say, like, oh, creators have it so easy, all you do is just talk about this or that, and it's like, no, there's a whole level of stress and planning that you guys have to do that I admire very much, and I think we need to learn from personally.
Yeah, well, Gene, I appreciate that. It means a lot hearing that from you because a lot of people that are in your industry don't seem to understand that. And it's always
Mhm.
a competition, rather, like you said, people working together. Like networking with creators is probably the best way to go about and succeed in your line of work. And the way you do it, I think, is the correct way to do it. Like, look at us here now. We're talking and we're networking, but we're also like exchanging stories. You're sharing your story, how you
Yeah.
started off and what you do. And that's what resonates with people a lot more in this space. So I appreciate you sharing all of that with me. But
Mhm.
getting on to my next question.
We're
Yeah,
we're the era of authenticity, like I'm
there
drawn
you
to
go.
you because I feel that you're a very authentic person. So.
Appreciate that. I appreciate that. Right. So moving on to the next question, then, Gene. In terms of the gaming culture and the evolution of it, how have you seen gaming culture evolve over the years, especially in terms of community and representation?
Uh, Probably a lot of what we just talked about. It's really evolved into this whole creator space.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's it all started with Let's Plays, and my friend Slow Beef, if you don't know who he is, but
It rings a bell.
he's actually the very first Let's Player, and he
Knew
started
it.
by playing a game, and he would just post on it on a forum, and he would just post his
Right.
progress and make
Wow.
commentary on it. And that evolved into video Let's Plays, and
Mm-hmm.
he's still doing it now. He's a very very tiny creator, and a lot of people don't know him, but he is the original guy. Um, but that was a little genesis, that's started with Slow Beef and morphed into Game Grumps and PewDiePie. The
Mm-hmm.
Game Grumps are good friends of mine. Aaron and Dan actually now. It's again,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a fan of the creators, and now I've just become. I'm actually hanging out with Dan on Monday actually. So
No
so that's
way.
gonna be
That's
cool.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it all morphed into PewDiePie, and all now it's become Kai Cenat and you and just a bunch of other people. It's just really creators lead so much of the conversation, at least in the online space.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
And it's really kind of splinter. It's expanded the gaming space, but it's also helped people find the different communities. So you talk about representation. There was no representation in like games media. And now the creator space is just like all kinds of people. Whoever kind of person you want, bad or good, you can find that
Pretty
kind of
much.
person, and
Yeah.
You can find that kind of person and find your people there. Um, that is a and all of the toxicity and combativeness that we have is a byproduct of this kind of online society that we built of gated communities. It's I don't know if you played Metal Gear games. You're a PlayStation guy, so I assume you have.
Believe it or not, Metal Gear is one I skipped. I've never touched it.
Fan base, you need to get this man
I will
on
get
Metal
on
Gear.
it's in the process. I'm planning it. Don't
It's gonna be
worry.
some good ass content. I know you all know that. I know you all know that. So we need the campaign starts now. EBG on MGS.
Yeah, it'll happen. Don't
Uh,
worry. When it happens, it happens. Trust me.
yeah, but okay. Well, this is not a spoiler talk, but the game does talk about people splintering into gated communities, and
Mm.
that's what we kind of had right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, you know, uh, God, like you can find old interviews of me like back in the early 2000s, but I was like, yeah, I love social media, but I'm really, really terrified about the death of serendipity, of
Mm.
serendipitous interactions of different people coming together and understanding each other's differences
Yeah.
and working through that, as opposed to, I'm in this community and you're in this community and I hate you and no one's really talking to each other
Yeah. Yeah.
and you can't talk to each other because why are you platforming that person, or like I don't even want to go on your show because you did this and you say that. So it's like it's only gotten worse, and that has been a that's human nature.
Mhm.
One of my favorite books of all time, it's quite an old one right now, but it's called The Big Sword, and why the splintering of like-minded America is tearing us apart. And this is
Right.
before the internet, where people in different communities, different religious communities, would be like, "Okay, well, you're Christian, so I'm going to move here, and you're this, so I'm going to move here." Or, "Oh,
Mm.
you believe in this political belief, so I'm going to move here to this town, so we can all be together." That was
Yeah.
already happening before the internet happened, and then
Right.
places like Facebook and Twitter and the algorithms and TikTok algorithms only made they made that a total speed run, where
Mm.
now that's why you see all this toxicity, because we just sped run to blocking each other out, basically. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know how to fix it. It's Pandora's box.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's only gotten worse overall. So yeah, I think it's kind of gotten worse. To be quite honest.
Yeah.
But back to your point about representation, and I mean, it's easier again now than ever to find what you want. So if you're able to take care of yourself and take care of your own people in your own space, then you might be in a good spot.
Yeah. I
Maybe that's
agree.
the DBG community. That from what I see every comments, everyone seems to be very positive. You know, so yeah, you have to do what you can.
Well, this is it. I
I think.
mean, I like the fact that you touched on my community in particular, because it is something that I've always strived for myself personally, is just to create a safe space. And I know a lot of creators kind of tend to try do the same, but what I've been doing it for almost 10 years now, and I've been very passionate about community driven stuff. That's why I do deebeecon, that's why I do Geek Mist and charity events and stuff like that.
Mm,
It's a space where everybody can collectively come together. It doesn't matter what background, it doesn't matter what race, it doesn't matter what color you are, it doesn't matter. None of that matters as long as we all enjoy the same thing. We like talking about video games, we like having fun, then you belong here. That's what it's all about, a safe space.
totally.
And
Yeah.
in the gaming industry, in the gaming space, especially in the creator space, there is going to be lots of divides depending on, it depends on the streamer, it depends on the creator, like what their beliefs, what their values are. And that usually manifests their communities and what their communities consist of. But for me, like I said, it's about a safe space and doing this kind of stuff and chatting to people like you in the industry and all that. Like, this is the kind of stuff that I think a lot of creators and people in this industry should strive to achieve. And I'm very fortunate to be able to do what I do and to be able to reach out to people like yourself and to do this kind of thing. So, yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, representation is important, I think. And I think like I said, it depends on you, depends on the creator, and it depends on your values on what determines the community and the people within it. But let's
Mhm.
get to like the actual gaming stuff and like your personal connection with video games. So in
Mhm.
terms of your video game journey, now I know you've been, like you said previously, you've been playing games throughout your life, regardless of what career path you were going down. So, what I want to know is, because for me personally, I'll tell you my answer now in a minute, but what was your first game that really impacted you and sparked your love for gaming? Like for me, it was Super Mario 3 on the NES. That was the game that
Mhm.
like really truly introduced me to video games because it was my first video game and it was just an amazing game to play for your first game. But for
Mhm.
me, it was Super Mario 3. But what was it for you, and what sparked that love for gaming, if you will?
This is a great question. I have
Mm,
two ready answers for it. But
awesome.
I actually remember the first video game I ever played is
Yeah,
Karateka. Uh,
I don't think I've heard of that one.
you've heard of Prince of Persia.
Yes.
So Karateka is the guy's first game.
Oh
Jordan Mechner.
wow. Okay.
Prince of Persia by Jordan Mechner. Yeah, and Prince of Persia was revolutionary for his rotoscope animation.
Right.
But he started that in Karateka. Karateka was when he was tracing over his brother and his dad, film of his film footage of his dad and tracing it over and making pixels in the
Wow.
Apple II and everything like that. But
Yeah.
I played it at a friend's house on the computer, and I
Yeah.
was like, what is this magic? I'm pressing the keys and the characters moving and we're kicking and it's just like,
Yeah.
the kung fu movies I love to watch. I was like 5 or 6, so it was just very, very
Mm.
early. I remember my friend. It was his name is Gabriel. We actually still keep in touch. I talked to him a couple years ago. But it was at his house when I saw Karateka, and I went home and I told my parents. I was like, "There's something called video games. I need this.
I need this in my
Um,
life.
yeah, I need this in my life desperately." So we got a computer, but we didn't know how to work it. And my grandmother eventually finally got me a Famicom from
Oh,
Japan.
nice. Yeah.
So and eventually we got an NES once we realized that the Famicom wouldn't work in the
In the United
US.
States. Yeah.
So that was very nice, and I was very spoiled in that regard. Um, and actually, part of the privilege of having to work in the Washington Post is that I got to interview Jordan Mechner about two
Wow.
years ago.
Yeah.
And I got to tell him in person that you made the very first video game I ever played, and you changed
Wow.
my life. I love Prince of Persia too, of course, you know.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
As soon as I knew that he was making another game, I was like, "Yo, I'm on to
Yeah.
Prince of Persia!" Like that's
Give
awesome,
me
you know.
day one, baby.
Yeah, the day one Prince of Persia fan right here, you know. But that's what I was, you know,
Yeah.
basically on launch day, you know.
Yeah.
But I got to tell him in person. I was like, "You are one of the most important people in my life," you know. And so
Yeah.
thank you so much for that. So that was incredible.
Wow.
And I got to meet the person who made the next most important video game in my life. It is Metal Gear Solid 1. That's why
Right.
you need to get on it.
Well, I will
But
get on. I promise you I will.
I actually quit video games. Not quit video games, but I started to I really started to think, well, maybe video games aren't my passion. You know, like I was really into music more. I
Right.
really wanted to become a music journalist. Really, I really wanted to
Okay.
be a rock and roll or hip hop journalist.
Wow.
And I just never was that ever. You know, it was just
Right.
terrible. But really wanted to be a music journalist. I really got into music, playing music, playing in bands and everything like that. And that really distracted me from video games. So
Mm.
in the late 90s, and also I was the mod of that chat room. So I was really busy with like life stuff as opposed to just
Yeah.
playing games. And then PlayStation 1 came out. I played Final Fantasy 7.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
really, really important for me to play Final Fantasy 7, you know. So I played the Japanese version of that. I had
Nice.
no freaking clue what was going on in that game
No.
at all.
I could imagine.
No idea. When the big story event happens, I was like, I don't care. Like, I just lost my healer. What's going on? You know?
Yeah.
I spent so much time leveling the character out. What's going on? But other than Final Fantasy 7, I didn't really pay too much attention to PlayStation. I loved Resident Evil, but I didn't even know Resident Evil 2 was a thing. I didn't
Right.
know no idea they even made another game for that. You
Mm.
know?
Yeah.
When I went to college, I went to my buddy's house, and he had a PS1 again. And he says, "Have you ever played Metal Gear Solid?" I was like, "No." He was like, "Oh, dude, yeah, I gotta show you this game." And then so he
Right.
just played it for me as I watched him play,
Mm.
and I heard all his voice acting and all of the cinema. I saw all his cinematography and this music.
Mhm.
I just sat through the whole story, and I was like, "Video games are like this now?" I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
I could
Video
imagine
games have
actually, yeah.
seriously leveled up in terms of story and presentation and the themes that they're addressing. I was
Mhm.
like, "Oh, I have to lock back in. I have to play video games.
Yeah.
I have to play Metal Gear Solid." And this was right before Metal Gear Solid 2 came out. So I was like, "Oh, I'm back in. I'm totally back in." You know.
Yeah.
So it was Kojima that brought it back to me, and I got to tell him. I got to tell Kojima in person that I was
That's
like,
amazing.
You brought back games for me." You know, when I played Metal Gear, I realized that that this is the most interesting artistic medium that we have today.
Mm. It is. I agree. I think the best stories are told through video games these days, and
Yeah.
visually explained in the best ways too. Plus, the fact that you get control of these characters, you get to bond with these characters. It's just, you just can't beat that source of media in terms of storytelling, in my opinion. But that's amazing. You got to meet Kojima. Is Kojima? I'm assuming Kojima's quite nice in person.
Oh yeah, yeah, very, very much so.
Yeah.
He actually, while I was sick, he actually sent me a photo of himself,
No
having a
way.
thumbs up with the article that I did on him in Death Stranding.
Oh
And he
wow.
he sent a message saying, I really enjoyed our conversation. It was really special, and I look forward to talking to you again about Death Stranding too.
Wow.
And so
That
hopefully
must
we're
have
gonna
been
do this soon.
a pretty surreal full circle moment for you.
I was actually still very much in the middle of treatment and being sick
Mm,
during this time, so I was very emotionally like vulnerable. So
mm.
when I got that email, I just got an email on my phone, and I actually literally dropped to my knees and started crying.
I could only
And
imagine.
then I realized I have to fight for this life because look at this
Mm,
life I've built.
mhm.
It is too good for me to let it go right now. I can't
Yeah.
give up. So
Okay. Inspirational.
Kojima is waiting for me to talk to him about Death Stranding too. So
Yeah, there you go.
I, I
Gotta
gotta I
keep
gotta keep
going.
on I gotta keep on keeping on as
Exactly.
you haven't played Death Stranding yet, but that's a quote
No.
in the game too. Keep on keeping on. So yeah.
Amazing.
I assume you haven't
Amazing.
played Death Stranding yet. So
No, I haven't, but after seeing the 10-minute long trailer Kojima put together, I'm very interested on trying it again. So
yeah.
we'll see. We'll see. So obviously the whole theme of this show is Nintendo because the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct is imminent. It's on its way, and we're very excited to see what brand new hardware Nintendo is going to bring to the show. But speaking of Nintendo, I do want to ask you something about the impact Nintendo consoles have made. So first of all, how do you think the Nintendo Switch has influenced gaming, and particularly with its hybrid design from handhelds to docking mode, whatever you want to call it? Like, how do you think that has impacted the gaming space and industry?
Well, this is a great question because I actually interviewed Valve, and the
Yeah,
Valve's creators of
Steam Deck.
Steam Deck
Yeah, yeah,
said directly, Nintendo opened the market for us.
they sure did.
Uh, Nintendo created that pathway,
Hmm.
so that's why you have the ROG Ally now and the Steam Deck and all of these consoles aren't doing like amazingly, like none of these are even comparable to Switch,
Hmm.
but they show that there's a market hungry for it. People want this thing,
Hmm.
um, I
I
think
agree.
Nintendo is keen to not give up on the portable aspect because they live in Japan, because
Yeah.
they're Japanese, because they know that Japanese tech culture is honestly a little bit more advanced than the Western culture.
I
People always
agree.
keep talking about the iPhone and how the iPhone changed the world. The iPhone did change the world. But all of those features in the iPhone were in Japanese phones like years before.
Yeah.
Why I actually didn't buy an iPhone for a long time because I was like, why? There are literally better video cameras on Japanese phones than this iPhone. So I don't know why it's so expensive, and
Hmm.
why this is a big thing. It's the whole package of the iPhone that obviously I love iPhones too. It's the whole
Hmm.
package that made it work. But it was because they were clued in on what Japanese folks were really doing, and they were kind of watching that trend and they were watching that tech. Um,
Absolutely.
and uh, as we all know now, that the mobile market is just massive and huge, and Nintendo never gave that up. They always believed in it. For some
Mm.
reason, Sony thought they were like, okay, well, we failed, and even though we kind of didn't do a great job of it ourselves, but
Hmm.
since we can't do a great job, then maybe we should just give up, and they just kind of give up.
Yeah.
And now Xbox talked about a handheld, and PlayStation is talking about a handheld, and they came out with a Portal too.
Hmm.
So there is a huge market for handheld gaming and a device that contains games. I think people who don't get handhelds don't understand the appeal of this one thing that just has a bunch of games on it,
Yeah.
that you're not downloading or putting disc onto it. It's just like you carry it, and this is your little game machine.
Hmm.
It's awesome. I have been kind of questioning why I love handhelds so much, and it's because I'm from Guam, And on Guam, we always had power outages. We would just never have electricity, pretty
Right.
often.
Yeah.
So the only video game system I would have was my Game Boy with my AA batteries. So I always felt more secure to having a handheld gaming system.
Yeah.
You never know what's gonna happen. And then
Absolutely.
everyone in China is using handhelds and mobile games and everything like that. So um that and also Nintendo also showed how higher budgets don't necessarily mean success. Uh,
Yeah.
I think the handheld device kept them from making too many expensive decisions about their games, about their franchises. One of my favorite reactions from you playing Xenoblade Chronicles is this is on the Switch, and it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
Monolith Soft are wizards. They are
Yes, they
handy with
are.
the thing, and they can create compelling deeply emotional experiences that feel immersive and realistic, and you don't even think about the graphics or the aliasing or the performance because you are so into the game design and the combat mechanics and the story and the characters. And that's what isn't that what we should be focusing on
We should be. Yes.
as a community, as people who love games? Like we should be focusing on how a game feels and how it makes us feel, as
Hmm.
opposed to relying on how many hair follicles we need, or
Yeah.
and how smooth the eyeballs look and everything.
Yeah.
Um, so it'll be interesting to see what the Switch 2 now that Nintendo is finally firmly waist deep into the HD era. I would think that they were knee deep in the HD era with a sometimes 1080p console.
Yeah.
But now that we're firmly in the HD era now, how is that going to affect Nintendo's processes? Uh, you know, uh, will it slow things down for Nintendo in a way that we haven't seen before? Monolith Soft was very, very productive.
Yeah. Oh,
Uh,
absolutely.
they made a lot of games for the Switch, not including their own Xenoblades, but obviously the fact that they help out with Splatoon and Smash Brothers, that's crazy.
Yeah. And Breath of the
Um,
Wild too.
of course, Breath of the Wild and
Hmm.
Tears of the Kingdom is a
Hmm.
classic example too as well,
Hmm.
which is incredible. So I'm wondering how that's going to affect the processes. And I'm hoping that Nintendo is good about taking precautionary measures. I'm wondering if they've done as much as they can to make sure that costs stay down, but and they continue to focus on gameplay as opposed to graphical gimmicks.
Mhm. Well, I think so. I think the one thing Nintendo has taught all of us, it's not about the hardware, it's about the worlds you create and how you create them. And I
Mhm.
think obviously Monolith Soft are the gold standard, in my opinion, when it comes to creating these luscious, beautiful worlds with, we'll say nowadays, limited hardware. Because Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition just came out, and that game is still blowing my mind that it's running on the Nintendo Switch and running
Mhm.
as well as it's running on the Nintendo Switch. I don't think
Mhm.
people can quite fathom what Monolith Soft are quite capable of, but ushering the new era of Nintendo and the fact that the likes of Monolith Soft will have stronger and better hardware, I can only imagine the kind of worlds that they're going to create. It's
Yeah.
going to be mind blowing.
Actually, in my review of X, I called it the perfect bookend for the Switch because the
Yeah,
Switch started with a Monolith Soft produced game, Breath of the Wild, which was on the Wii U. Now the Switch is ending with a Monolith Soft developed game that was also on the Wii U. The
that's
Switch's
very
life,
true.
Switch's
Wow,
life
yeah.
is being bookended by Monolith Soft games from the Wii U. That's crazy. That's
That
actually
is
crazy.
crazy. Yeah,
You know?
I never even thought of that until you brought it up. That's actually kind of insane.
Yeah, yeah. It's a little weird.
Wow.
It's
Yeah,
it's a full circle story. It's
it
like it's
really
like no,
is.
Xenoblade X really didn't get his time to shine. And people don't know, but it's the only game of the studio where the entire studio was working on this. Like the entire team, all the teams were working on were fully committed to this product. So
Mm,
why Xenoblade X is special and unique among the series, even
wow.
among a very special series in and of itself.
Mm, wow, amazing. Anyway, since we are kind of in the topic of Nintendo Switch 2 now, and as I said, the Nintendo Direct is on the horizon. It's almost here now. But I do want to ask your predictions on the Switch 2. What are your predictions for the upcoming Switch 2? And is there any features or innovations you're expecting to see? Like, because we know Nintendo are known for adding something unique or a USP, if you will, for their consoles. What do you think they're going to bring to this one?
Well, a lot of people have talked about that possible mouse capability,
Yeah, they
with
kind of
Joy-Cons.
teased that. All right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that they kind of showed that. So I'm really excited to learn more about that. I
Yeah.
think that'd be really, really fascinating to see, especially with the increase of PC market popularity. What that would do for games like Splatoon or, of course,
Yeah.
Call of Duty coming out too.
True. True.
Nintendo also promotes Fortnite quite a bit too, and I actually played a lot of Fortnite on the Switch for a little bit. I stopped playing it once they switched to Unreal Engine 5, and I was like, I'm not
Yeah.
gonna put my Switch through that. I'm sorry.
Do not stress.
And I stopped playing Fortnite. But Nintendo is promoting that a lot, and so they must get a lot of engagement for Fortnite on the Switch as well.
Mm.
That'd be useful for Minecraft. That'd be so useful for Mario Maker. Can you imagine?
Oh wow.
Uh,
Yeah.
or if they plan to make it like Zelda Maker, or if they want to continue that whole Maker series, it'd be so easy to just move things around with your
Absolutely.
mouse.
Yeah.
That'd be so fresh and innovative. Not maybe not so fresh and innovative, but it'll be just nice.
Mm.
Um, I guess that's it for features. I really don't know what else to expect. I kind of hope they don't put too much. Just
I
make it
think
a
less is
nice.
more. No. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you kind of figured it out, and at least for one more generation, just give us another regular ass game console, please. It's okay.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think I think a more just an improved version of the Switch, which is something that we've all been asking for a long time, with some added features. I do think the mouse Joy-Con feature would be a game changer, and
yeah.
nobody else is doing that. Like there is
Oh,
literally
nobody.
nobody else doing that. So
That's
that
true.
would be
Yeah, the
insane.
closest thing you might have is a touchpad on the PlayStation DualSense,
Yeah,
which I actually really like quite a bit.
yeah,
But
same. Yeah,
um, what else? What was I gonna say? I guess in terms of library, I'm just gonna go crazy and say, what if we just get a new Zelda already? That'd be crazy.
straight off the bat, that would be
Yeah, just straight off
insane.
the bat, they're like, hey, we've actually been cooking secretly the whole time, like we were making Tears of the Kingdom.
I could
Uh, uh
imagine.
yeah, that'd be good. That would be a dream come true. I guess we can expect Mario Kart. I expect Mario later in the year, maybe. That I think that'd
Mm,
be smart, and I think it would be smart to replicate what they did with Switch.
mm.
Really start off with a strong title. It was really Zelda that really moved the Switch in
Yeah, absolutely.
the first year or so. Remember, there were stories about how there were more copies of Zelda being sold than the actual Switch, but it was actually like 1-to-1. Like everybody who had a Switch was
What
buying Zelda.
Zelda? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I could imagine.
Um, and I remember attending. I always tell the story, but I remember attending a conference of convention of virtual reality developers. And this was around 2018, a
Right.
year after Switch, and they were all marveling at the idea that millions of people were buying a piece of hardware just for one game. And they,
Mm.
they couldn't wrap their heads around it. They're like, how is it that software is driving so much hardware? And it's like, because you guys don't get it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because Nintendo gets it. You just make a good game, and then people will go and buy it. It doesn't
Mhm.
matter what the cost is or whatever. You have to make a good as game, a game that will drive people to do that. And it's like, yeah, how do we even do that though? And it's like that's the problem that VR has. Like how do you get people to jump into a medium when you don't have the software to really pull
True.
you in? Half-Life Alex might be the closest thing, but that's stuck on the Steam Index.
Yeah.
Um, and also that's also a challenging game to play too.
This wouldn't be for everyone. Like, say, Breath of the Wild being a game that's so open to a wider audience, young and
Mhm,
old. Like, anybody can play Breath of the Wild and have a good time with it. And the fact that
mhm.
it's a game that looks as good as it does and you can play it on the go, of course people are going to buy it. Of course people are going
Yeah,
to
yeah,
play it. It's a no
yeah,
brainer.
yeah. And again, the whole thing of being on the go was a new thing.
Hmm.
And it's so funny to see people poo-poo on it, but I get it though. Look, Nintendo almost lost me too. I love the Wii, but there were definitely parts of the I definitely didn't super enjoy the motion control all the time.
Hmm.
Um, it was a huge reason why I didn't like Skyward Sword,
Right.
Zelda
Yeah. I think
Skyward
a lot
Sword.
of people have the same reasoning for that,
Yeah,
actually. Yeah.
I just thought that was very, very tiring and inaccurate. So when they made Skyward Sword HD, the one that everyone made fun of for just looking the same but being $60,
Hmm.
they reformatted the control completely. And when I played that version with the no motion controls, I love Skyward Sword. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
now I understand the game design. I understand what they were trying to do here. This is great.
Hmm.
Now that hang up of like the motion controls were out of the way. And then I bought the Wii U purely for Bayonetta 2. That's it. You know,
Good game.
only
Good choice.
Bayonetta 2. Huh?
Good game.
Yeah, that's right. You just started playing Bayonetta as well. That's right.
Yeah,
That's
I
that's really
finished
funny.
Bayonetta there a couple of months ago now, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy. I haven't
Yeah.
watched that yet. I only watched the one the one scene where the girl like is like like the really sexy one with the monster that comes out.
Oh yeah.
I just need you need to see everyone's reactions to the
Yeah.
spread eagle monster
Yeah.
basically, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But Bayonetta 2 was the only reason why I bought the Wii U. And also I was like, yeah, it's a Nintendo console. I might as well just get it, right? And of
Hmm.
course, Zelda's gonna come out someday, so I might as well be prepared for that. But I barely played the Wii U.
Mm.
And I figured like, yeah, maybe Nintendo might be done, or I might be out of Nintendo for a bit because this isn't it. I didn't even have a 3DS until way later as well. I was
Mhm.
like, I'll check out Nintendo as opposed to I'm a huge Nintendo fan, which is crazy because I am a huge Nintendo fan. It's just that, the Wii and Wii U 1-2 punch was starting to lose folks like me and almost lost you too. Again,
Mm.
you are a PlayStation guy,
Yeah.
as the headline said. I don't blame anyone for not tapping into Nintendo for the last few years.
Mhm.
But the Switch really changed things up and really reminded people why Nintendo is it's just the best. They're the best. I love
Mm.
Nintendo. I don't hide my bias. My bias is Nintendo. So
Mm. It's understandable because, as I said before, I've been somebody that was pretty much attached to one system for years. Like, I started with Nintendo, so Nintendo would always have a special place in my heart. But PlayStation was one that was producing these big games, these big AAA titles, and sequels to these big AAA titles, and it just kept me invested. But until I decided to reinvest my time into Nintendo, obviously to make content as well, because I became a content creator and all that stuff too. But when I rediscovered my love for Nintendo, I realized what I've been missing out on for so many years. And playing Breath of the Wild and Smash Bros. And Xenoblade Chronicles, it reminded me of back at a time where I used to just have my brick Game Boy and just get lost into these worlds. And to be able to do that as an adult again with obviously better visuals and stuff, it just showed me like what I've been missing out on in terms of gaming. Nintendo
mm,
just made me fall in love with that again. So I'm very much for Nintendo now. I still love my PlayStation. Trust me, it's one of my favorite consoles, but
yeah.
Nintendo is always something that's going to have that little bit of something special. So this new era of Nintendo is exciting. It's exciting for a lot of us because it's been what, almost 8 years now since the release of the Nintendo Switch, and now we're going
Mhm.
into a brand new era, a brand new
We finally made
console.
it. Yeah, we
Yeah,
made it. Yeah.
it's an incredible thing to be a part of, and to actually be a part of this launch as well is going to be amazing because, like I said, I wasn't there when the Switch was, being released. I wasn't part of that hype because I wasn't
Me
interested.
too.
But now,
Me too.
now I'm very much invested, and I'm
Yeah.
ready to see what Nintendo going to show us. It's going to be insane.
Yeah, I was not a games journalist, so the only game console I ever actually bought on launch to this day is actually the Nintendo Wii. And that's
Right.
because I was with my fiance and we just moved to Hawaii and we had nothing. So the
Mm,
Nintendo Wii was coming out and I was like, "Hey babe, the Wii is coming out." And she was like, "Should I get it?" And she was like, "Oh yeah, you should get the Nintendo." And so I just went to Best Buy and like camped out overnight. And this is before like the whole holiday craze and before it was like the Tickle Me Elmo of Christmas or whatever.
right.
So
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
very fortunate. But that still remains to this day the only console I've ever gotten at launch by myself. I got the PS5 and the Xbox Series at launch, but that's because Xbox and PlayStation sent them to me because
Mm,
of my job.
yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
only time I've ever had a console at launch is for this job. I didn't even buy the PS4 at launch. I didn't buy the Switch until a couple months later.
Mm,
And I had to buy it. I had to, and this was a couple months later, so the Switch was sold out everywhere in 2017. So I had to buy it off Craigslist for $500.
No way. You
Yeah.
bought off a scalper.
I bought it off a scalper, but I was super
Man,
depressed. I was like, I was just
just
going
give it
through a
to me.
really bad breakup, and I was
Yeah.
I played and beat Zelda Breath of the Wild on the Wii U. I was like I
No
bought this damn
way.
thing. I bought this damn thing for the Zelda. I'm gonna beat it on this damn thing. So I did it
Fair play.
and powered through my depression. And I was like, wow, I'm still super sad about my broken heart. I know what'll fix it. I should just
Zelda.
900p version of Zelda on my TV screen as opposed to 720 on the
Amazing.
blurry tablet. You know. And then so I bought the Switch and I played through Zelda all over again. I had a great time, and I
Amazing.
got 454 Korok seeds. So
Oh, fair play. You
um,
got halfway there.
I got halfway there, but that was enough to get every single inventory slot.
Well,
I only
that's the
wanted to
important
make
thing.
I wanted to make sure that Link maxed out his inventory slot, and I was no longer depressed. I was like, I did it. Link has everything. I never have to worry about shields or swords ever again.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that is actually all we have time for today, Gene. I really appreciate all of the stories you've shared, your journey through your career, your thoughts on gaming and Nintendo and the future of Nintendo. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you here. So thanks again for being here, Gene. And the community here watching today, I'm sure have loved having you too. So we appreciate you, man. So thank you.
Hey, shout out to the DBG community. Really fun to get to know you guys. I've been part of it myself. Let's get him on Metal Gear soon.
Soon, I promise.
Soonish. Yeah. That's the thing. That's the thing. I have a lot of content creator friends. I always have to withhold my inclination as a fan to just tell them like, no, you should play this though because I want to see you play this. You know. Uh,
Yeah.
my really good friend Wooly over at the podcast Castle Super Beast, like, he loves Mecha, but he has no idea about Xenoblade Chronicles X, and like
Oh
I'm
man.
like fighting myself. He keeps playing all these other mecha games, and I keep telling him like Xenoblade Chronicles X is the dream mecha game, but I
It's
don't.
the
Like,
mecha game. Yeah.
but he is very particular, and like you, like he needs to be in a certain mood for certain type of
Mhm,
games or whatever. And I totally get that,
mhm.
So yeah, I always have to be careful about that. But we'll get you on there someday, and that'll be
We will.
exciting times. But
I'm sure.
DB, thank you so much for having me on.
Been a
When
pleasure.
you reached out to me, I was like, whoa, I got to be on deebeecon. That's awesome. This is a huge honor for me, and it's so fun to actually finally get to meet you and talk to you. So
Yeah, absolutely. And
another
it
feather,
won't
my another creator friend in my belt for sure. So
absolutely. And like I said, it won't be the last time either. I'm sure we'll do this again. It'll be another event that we could have you on and just have a chat, or maybe we'll just have a chat one day or whatever, whenever you're free.
sure,
So
yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Anyway, lads, that is going to be it from Gene and myself. Thank you so much for watching, and let's get back to the show.